FNCS Grand Finals Day 1 is over and we finally have the answer to the big questions. Is Clix going to finally win an FNCS? Can Mongraal still compete at the top level? How is Asian Jeff going to do? How is Jiven going to do? We got to answer all of these questions, and it wasn't without its drama as well. We had major issues on EU leading to all the players saying the game should be restarted, but Epic didn't. There's a lot to cover. Let's jump into it. Let's answer the big question. How are Mongraal and Savage doing? If you were watching the broadcast, if you checked the leaderboards, or if you were one of the hundreds of thousands of people watching them compete live on Twitch, they're not doing too hot after day 1. They're currently in 40th place overall, and they were pretty much in last most of the day until they pulled off a 4 elim 7th in their last game. What's going on? Is Mongraal choking under the pressure? Is Savage not as good as everyone's saying? No, their spawn fight situation is extremely rough. They are going the drone drop outside fencing fields. They've been going there all season and they are contested. Now, that's a straight 50-50. That already doesn't give you a great chance to do well. But even when they win the spawn fight, they are getting collapsed in on by multiple teams in the area nearby. So the first couple games were off to a rough start. Savage and Mongraal were trying to drop on the roof. They were trying to 50-50 the chest spawn there, and they were losing the guns every time and losing the fight almost instantly. Savage made the call to start dropping underneath to stop contesting the chest, and they started playing way better. They basically won every single spawn fight when they stopped going for the chest on the roof. The problem was, like I said, they were instantly getting collapsed in on, so even though they got a couple kills, they ended up dying soon after anyway. Until their last game, their final game, they dropped a 4 elim 7th, and it was at the hands of a big clutch from Mongraal, playing absolutely amazingly as a solo. As always, anytime we have a big name struggling, especially if they're streaming, all of their chat in the community spams switch drop somewhere else. Why are you still going there? And I understand the frustration, especially after the first couple games watching Mongraal and Savage 50-50 that chest. It didn't make a lot of sense and it didn't look like it was going to end too well for them. After they changed their fighting strategy, they actually started doing really well and pulled off a good game 6. So honestly, going into day 2, they could have a big comeback, especially if they find that consistency they did in game 6. I'm honestly a lot more confident for them going into day 2 after seeing them switch up their strategy and adapt to the spawn situation. There are other POIs they could land at to try and change things up. Right now, Railways is only singly contested by Yanis and Flixie, which I think is going to change tomorrow. But in case you don't know, the FNCS format actually has a 1.5 times multiplier on day 2. So even though it's another 6 games, it is actually worth technically 9 games worth of points. Elims are worth 6 points and wins are worth 100. So Mongol and Savage or any other team could pull off a huge comeback. FNCS is definitely not over for teams that are struggling after day 1. As for the rest of the EU leaderboard, we had the Germans on top. We had Vidil and Rezon in first on 306 points. Rezon again was streaming all of this to tens of thousands of viewers. Rezon is having one of the craziest blobs we've seen. Not just viewership, his 1v1 map is going insane. He's now a potential to win his first FNCS. Rezon is on top of the world right now, looking really good going into day number 2. We had Veno and Tayson clutch up last game, getting a massive 9 elim win to jump up into 2nd place overall. Veno and Tayson were off to a bit of a shaky start, surprisingly, for having a mythic POI unconned at Glacier, but it's Veno and Tayson. You knew they were going to show up big, and with their momentum going into day 2, if they're going to finish strong, they are looking very good to potentially take another FNCS win for Tayson and another for Veno as well. 3rd place, we had Mustache and Malabuka, who are actually triple conned at fencing, but still playing phenomenally well despite this, as we know they could. If you guys didn't see, Fortnite did actually change Storm Surge recently. It upset a lot of people, but honestly, from a viewer spectator perspective, I've been absolutely loving this change. They basically made it so Storm Surge is harder. You need to get more damage, more players die, which is leading to less laggy end games, more aggressive mid games. It's rewarding teams that actually know how to consistently fight, and it's not leading the end games to heal off. It's been so fun to watch, but understandably, a lot of pros are upset that they changed this last minute. This was a change that only went through a few days ago, right before Grand Finals. So that is tripping some teams up, and I fully understand why pros would be upset, but from a viewer perspective, I am loving it, and Mustache and Malabuka are as well. They're playing very consistently, winning a lot of fights and doing very well. I'm gonna save the full leaderboard breakdown until tomorrow's video for day 2 of Grand Finals because so much could change. I really just want to cover the big storyline. So moving on over to NA, we obviously had the big storyline. Is Clix and Whale finally gonna win FNCS? Obviously, Whale has 6 times FNCS champion, but can Clix finally get his FNCS crown? He's going lavish, and he was supposed to be getting I want to say quadruple contested. At this point, we've had Blake say he's contesting clicks. We've had Asian Jeff say he's contesting clicks. We even had Lacey and Creo, who didn't even qualify, say they're contesting clicks. So at this point, I didn't know what was real. The one team that was actually supposed to be contesting them at Lavish was going to be G-Money and Diego, and they ended up pulling off. So Clicks and Whale had unconned all 6 games today and look like they're unconned going into tomorrow. With this, they managed an 8th place overall. They finished on 216 points with a really good performance. Obviously, a lot of people are expecting more, especially with unconned drop spot. They did have a tendency to play extremely aggressive for height like they have been doing in previous weeks. They're just a couple of players didn't quite play out for them the way it did during the qualifiers. There was a couple other teams who were really aggressively playing for height and they just couldn't hold it. Still a phenomenal performance, and again, with a 1.5 times multiplier tomorrow, they could easily bring it back for Clix' first FNCS win if they keep playing the way they are, but just a little bit better on high grounds. Now, unfortunately, before I move on to recapping NA, I do need to talk about a bug on EU. It was going great until game 6. The lag was looking way better with the new surge changes. Everything was looking better, but in game number 6, 10 players did not load in from 10 separate duos. There was 10 solo players that had to load in and play by themselves. A lot of people spamming the Fortnite Twitch chat, spamming on socials, telling them to restart the game. Epic does have a threshold you have to reach to restart the game, and I think you need to have 20 or 30 players not connect, not to restart the game. So with only 10, they didn't restart it. The game ran ahead and the points will stand. It's super unfortunate to see for these 10 teams in what was a very good final with, as far as I could see, no major bugs. Every other game connected with 100 players. We did have certain people having PC issues. Cammy crashed in game 5, but that was his PC. So obviously with an online tournament, some people aren't going to load in, but having 10 people not load in because of an issue on Fortnite's end really made people ask for a restart, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Speaking of big names, we obviously have to talk about Asian Jeff and Oliver OG. Jeff on a meteoric blow up right now, made grand finals. This is the duo that seems like it should never work. They always split, get back together, flame each other. Unfortunately, they had a rough day one. They're in 33rd place right now. They are dropping at a terrible POI to the far, far northeast of the map. They're dropping it like the windmill, oil rig kind of thing that's going on out there. It is an awful drop, especially with the new surge changes. And this is pretty much shown by the fact that their second best game was the one game they were contested. They instantly did better because they actually got surge. They actually got damage. They did pull off a 4 elim 9th in their last game though, and that's after the team that was dropping on them left again. So they've proven they can do it well-conned and unconned. Hopefully they can keep that consistency going into day 2 and get a bit better of a performance. But Jeff's been streaming it. My man's still killing on the content. I don't think he's too stressed, but I would like to see them jump up a little bit more. Most of the rest of the storylines are at the top of the leaderboard where they should be. Going into the last couple games, we had one of the most stacked top 7 leaderboards I have ever seen. Like, look at this and tell me this isn't just a who's who of NA. An insane performance in what is a meta that some people are questioning, or they're complaining about lag or the new storm surge, but really this season's grands was bringing out the best of the best. And after 6 games, it was no different. First place, we have Yomzo and Rise on 320, only 2 points clear of Cooper and Mero. Now, Cooper and Mero are being contested on the yacht, and they've been contested all 6 games. They're instantly wiping the competition and going on to dominate. I did not have them in my top 10 because they were contested at such a 50-50 drop. I put them in 10th spot just thinking, hey, maybe they pull something off. They went down game 1 and then they got a 3rd, 5th, 4th, and 15th. So if they can go into day 2 and win 5 of 6 games on spawn, I will not be surprised to see the Copenhagen champions bring it home in NA FNCS as well. We also had Acorn and Cold in 3rd on 305 points. Remember, they are triple contested at fencing. They are playing phenomenally well. We had Ritual and Reed bring it home as well in 4th place. We have Peterbot and Poyo in 5th, Aviv and Booga in 6th, Bakapaz 7th, Clicks and Whale 8th, Sphinx and Pump 9th, and then Muzz Paper 10th. An absolute who's who stacked top 10 on NA going into day 2. There are a lot of teams I want to win this FNCS. I do hope Yomzo and Rise can handle the pressure. They have been the favorites to win so many FNCSs now, and both of them have never gained the crown. I hope they can hold off the pressure. I hope they can bring it home. I would love to see that. Obviously, I'd love to see Clicks win his first FNCS. I'm a dig boy. I'd love to see Cooper and Mero back up their title. I'd love Acorn to win another one. There's so many big storylines going into the next day. I do have to mention, we're talking about content creators out here. Jiven and Piggle in 23rd place. Jiven conclusively proven that he didn't fluke his way to grands. I already said he didn't. My man made upper bracket, stayed in upper bracket, qualified out of upper bracket. My man is not fluking his way through this season. He is playing so consistent, and him and Piggle are top 25 right now, and both of them are in their first FNCS grands ever, and they're contested, and they're having to fight Reet for the forecast tower. They are not having an easy run of it, and they're doing amazing.